The Refuge by Omar Cuellar. When the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers. Oscar Wilde, 1899. The year was 1989. I was driving my car, late at night, slowly and cautiously, through a terrible storm. With the help of my headlights, I tried to make out any lit windows in the many dilapidated, decaying houses, but every building appeared abandoned. Because of the downpour, I couldn't see a single light on anywhere. I was on my way to Montpelier, Vermont, for a job interview the next day. In my desperation to reach my hotel quickly, I had taken a strange shortcut that led me into this desolate suburb. Now, feeling utterly forsaken in this deeply unsettling place, I deeply regretted my decision, as I always did. Whenever I made a choice, no matter what it was, I soon regretted it. My first girlfriend, my first job, my first marriage. I never had children, so I don't know whether I would have regretted my first child too. Terrified by all the signs confirming that the suburb was indeed abandoned, I decided to park my car right in the middle of the street and check the map for how far my hotel still was. According to the map, it wasn't much farther. At that moment, despite the deafening rain, I began to hear something that left me stunned, something that even today makes my hair stand on end just thinking about it. Outside in the street, I could hear howls, not from one animal, but from several. They weren't the howls of dogs. I thought of wolves or coyotes, though I had no real idea what those animals actually sounded like. Still, I was certain they were animals. Suddenly, those dreadful howls became distorted, taking on a bizarre quality, the hysterical, delirious laughter of human beings. How could this be happening? Were the howls mixing with laughter? I wondered, straining to listen. I realized the shrieks were getting closer to my car, so I started the engine and drove off. I tried to stay calm, telling myself I was still safe as long as I remained inside the vehicle. As I drove, I cautiously scanned my surroundings, searching for the source of those horrifying, hysterical cries. Unfortunately, the rain and darkness prevented me from seeing anything clearly outside. I continued driving carefully until suddenly I heard growls and laughter directly above my car and right beside my left window, which, of course, was closed. Terrified and without hesitation, I floored the accelerator, trying to leave behind whatever creatures seemed to be stalking my vehicle. As I sped through it, the suburb seemed endless. Have I driven straight into hell? I thought. Where are all the people? Why are every house abandoned and in ruins? How the hell did I end up here? I kept asking myself these questions and regretting my shortcut while racing through the streets when suddenly, to my immense relief, I saw that the straight road finally came to an end. I'm saved at last, I thought. I've finally found a way out of this terrible, ominous place. But my relief quickly turned to bitterness, disappointment, and frustration when I realized why the road ended. It opened into a wild, dark forest filled with enormous trees. If I entered that forest, I would never come out alive, I was sure. First, those creatures that had been chasing me would certainly find me and finish me off. Even if I was lucky enough to hide from them until dawn, I would almost certainly get lost forever in the jaws of that forest. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. Earlier, while fleeing at full speed, I had already tried to spot anyone on the street to ask for help, but of course no one was outside in the storm. My options were to enter the forest or turn around and go back, risking another encounter with those creatures. I decided to turn around and go back. I knew I would regret it, because I always did, but if I entered the forest, I would regret that too. For the first time in my life, I didn't regret my choice. I don't know why I hadn't noticed the house before. Perhaps I had missed it while speeding. On my way back, I saw a lit house on my left. Unlike all the surrounding houses, this modest home actually appeared inhabited. It wasn't decrepit like the others. All its walls were painted in neat beige. The gabled roof was in perfect condition. Not a single window was missing, and the front garden was well kept. 3 garden gnome statues, and many potted plants decorated the small porch. I stopped the car and hesitated, wondering whether I should risk getting out to ask for help. The rain had eased, and fortunately, I no longer heard the growls or laughter of those creatures. When I recalled those strange sounds, an indefinable terror washed over me again. Although I was terrified that the creatures might return, I gathered my courage and decided to leave the car and seek help at that one-lit, seemingly occupied house. The moment I stepped out and felt the rain on me again, I began trembling with fear. I ran to the front door and pounded on it desperately. I shouted for help, gave my name and where I had come from, hoping that whoever was inside would feel safe enough to open the door. But no one answered. "I have ID with me. I can identify myself. Please, help me," I yelled. Then the door opened. Standing there beside the doorway was my savior, my angel, and he was beautiful. Without saying a word, he looked at me and gave me a comforting smile, as though he already knew me. He gestured for me to come in, and without thinking twice, soaked and shaking, I crossed the threshold. "Caught in the rain?" he said. The young man kept smiling. In any other circumstance, I might have thought the smile was out of place or that he was mocking me, but in that moment, it soothed and comforted me. I couldn't believe how much power a smile could have when someone is gripped by intense anxiety. All the fear I had felt simply vanished. I looked around the room, and it felt comforting and welcoming too. The living room was gently lit with warm light, as was the adjoining kitchen. The whole place was spotless and tidy. It smelled as though someone was baking cookies or cake. This humble but impeccable home was the complete opposite of the cold, inhospitable world outside. Inside, you couldn't hear the rain or the thunder, much less the cries of those strange creatures. "How many people live here?" I asked. "Just me. Nice to meet you. My name is Jake," he said, extending his hand. We shook. I glanced at the white sofas in the living room. They looked so plush and comfortable. I was exhausted and sleepy. I wasn't sure I could stay awake another hour without collapsing onto the floor. As if reading my mind, Jake said, "I'll make us some coffee. Why don't you sit down and relax?" I sat on one of the sofas. It really was very comfortable. As Jake walked to the kitchen, I looked around again and realized the warm light was soothing every one of my senses, the way alcohol slowly takes effect after you drink it. Up to that point, Jake hadn't said much more, and I remained almost hypnotized by the warm light. I reclined on the sofa until I was practically lying down. I hadn't taken any drugs, yet I could no longer remember why I was there or what I was doing in that place. The only thing I could think about was how much I wanted to be there, how extraordinarily happy I felt being there, and how I was meant to be there. Reclined on the sofa, I studied Jake carefully. He was a young white man with green eyes and short, slightly curly brown hair. He wasn't tall and had tattoos on both arms whose designs I couldn't quite make out. He moved with agility and confidence around the house. After all, it was his home. "Our coffee is ready," he said, placing 2 cups on the living room table and sitting comfortably beside me. He turned to look at me again with that beautiful smile, and in that moment, I felt myself fall in love with him. "I'm so glad you made it. I was worried you'd cancel our date because of the rain," he said. To be honest, I was nervous at first. You see, it's my first time. "That you've gone out with a man, or that you've had a date?" Jake began to laugh. "You look even better in person than in the photos you sent me," I told him. Jake blushed and took a sip of his coffee. "Of course, I would never cancel our date," I added. "I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time." Jake continued drinking his coffee calmly. From that moment on, we talked and got to know each other better. I lost track of time. His company and conversation were so pleasant and interesting. I didn't want the night to end. I wanted to learn so much more about his life. The whole time we talked, I could smell freshly baked cookies or cake. I had grown very hungry and was hoping he would offer me some, so I finally asked outright, "What's that smell?" "It's a cake I'm baking. This morning I remembered you said your favorite is chocolate, Jake replied. He stood up, went to the kitchen, put on oven mitts, and took the cake out of the oven. He cut a large slice onto one plate and a small slice onto another, then walked over and handed me the plate with the large piece. Thank you, I said, looking at the cake with delight. We kept talking while we ate. When we finished, I asked, "What now?" I felt like watching a horror movie, but I knew most people don't like that genre, so I didn't mention it. How about we watch a horror movie? Jake suggested. I was surprised. Jake seemed able to read my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. How did you know? Don't you remember telling me that too? He said. I paused, puzzled. I didn't remember telling him that. In fact, there were moments when I felt I couldn't remember many things at all. After the horror movie ended, I was extremely sleepy. It was past midnight, but he still seemed full of energy. When I said I should probably head home, he insisted I stay the night in one of the spare bedrooms. He insisted so much that I finally gave in. He showed me the room that would be mine. A small bedroom, also gently lit with that peaceful, comforting, warm light. The walls and floor were wood, and there were no pictures on the walls or decorations on the furniture. The smell of baked cake reached this room too. Well, I should get ready for bed, I said. I'm not sleepy at all yet. Will you please stay up a bit longer and play some video games with me? I didn't like video games. They tired my eyes quickly. But I liked Jake so much that I was willing to make an exception for him. So I followed him back to the living room, where he hooked up his Atari 7800. I thought I was too tired and would fall asleep any moment. It was already the middle of the night. But Jake was so excited and having so much fun that his joy became contagious. Watching him laugh and smile completely chased away my sleepiness and fatigue. When we finished playing, I told him I was going to bed and that tomorrow we could do more things if we woke up early. Suddenly he looked at me in alarm and pulled on my shirt. What are you saying? The night is still young. There are so many things we can do. This time he turned on the radio and started singing along. I liked the music, and hearing him sing again made my tiredness and sleepiness vanish once more. We listened to music for a long while, and once again I lost all sense of time. I was enjoying the night immensely, and didn't want it to end. Suddenly I glanced at the clock. It was already 5:30 in the morning. Dawn would come soon. This time Jake's face became very serious. He turned off the radio and stared straight at me. You need to go to sleep now. What are you talking about? I protested. You're the one who said the night is still young. Did your battery finally run out? Angry, Jake lifted me from the sofa with both arms and pushed me toward my room. Wait, what's wrong with you? I started pushing back, annoyed. Jake collapsed onto the floor and began sobbing uncontrollably. This is my last night, he managed to say between bitter sobs. I knelt down and sat on the floor in front of him. What's wrong? Why are you crying? I asked gently. Jake kept crying. This isn't a date, he said. You're not gay. I'm not gay. You don't know me. I don't know you. I don't understand anything you're saying, I replied. Do you know the term incunabula? I asked. A few days ago, someone accidentally released or summoned vengeful creatures by reading a verse from an incunabulum. I'm talking about the Pnakotic manuscripts. The strange creatures summoned by that verse began exterminating everyone in this suburb without distinction. We don't know why they want to destroy us, but I suspect we must have done something terrible to deserve this divine punishment. I stared at him in disbelief. Then Jake continued. I knew I would be the last survivor because I was the one who summoned them. Tonight I heard you step onto my porch. The reason I invited you in is because I realized you didn't belong to this suburb. So I decided to protect you from those creatures at all costs. But how did you protect me? I heard those creatures myself. I honestly thought I wouldn't survive, I said. Until now I've been protecting you with visual, auditory, olfactory, and tactile illusions, he assured me. Then he added, but all this time I was protecting you. In reality, you were the one protecting me. You gave me one more night of joy, normalcy, and comfort by distracting me from my terrible, inevitable fate." "What are you talking about? What fate?" I asked. "You're a fool. Open your eyes already. Everything you've perceived around you tonight isn't real. I'm not sitting here in front of you crying on the floor. Those creatures are tearing my body apart and devouring me right now. Don't you see them?" And then I did see them. Those terrifying, grotesque creatures I had first heard when I mistakenly entered this cursed suburb. I could hear them feeding on something or someone. I began crawling silently across the floor in total darkness because the soft, warm light that had welcomed me earlier had vanished. I don't know how long it took me to get out of that ruined building, but when I finally did, dawn had broken and the creatures were gone. The sun was shining brightly overhead. My car waited outside, untouched. I looked around and saw the state of decay and abandonment of every house in the suburb, including the one I had just escaped from. As I drove away, I couldn't stop thinking about Jake, whose fatal mistake had been summoning those creatures. And though he had been a complete stranger to me, I knew I would never stop missing him.